a push to stop kleptocrats from cashing in abroad. When the playboy son of Equatorial Guinea's president bought $35 million Australian house in Malibu, California, in 2006, his neighbors, who included the actor Mel Gibson and the singer Britney Spears, barely blinked. They might have taken a closer look, as leaders in Washington and capitals around the world will have to if they are serious about wanting to stop mysteriously wealthy rulers of impoverished lands from stashing loose cash in their countries. Here are a few things the residents of Malibu might want to know about Teodorin the guy now living next door. At 38, he is paid $4,000 a month as Minister of Agriculture and Forestry. That hardly finances a lifestyle spread across 3 continents, with property in South Africa, as well as California, and a fleet of cars, mainly in Paris, worth $6.5 million. This kind of excess could be hard to tolerate in a Wall Street executive. It is all the more glaring from a member of the ruling family of a small coastal African country where 3/4 of the 500,000 inhabitants live below the poverty line. The infant mortality rate is 92.3 per thousand, and most people have no clean water or health services. Equatorial Guinea has undergone an oil boom in recent years, which on paper has produced the highest per capita income in Africa. So little has trickled down so far that the wealth more likely explains young Mr. Abang's purchase in Paris of a Bugatti Veyron 16.4 sports car for $1 million, or $1.4 million. This kind of conspicuous corruption has been on display in the United States and Europe for years. Think of the Florida villas belonging to Central American dictators, or the London townhouses owned by Middle Eastern potentates. But the world has changed in the last year. Now everybody is clamoring for more transparency and accountability from chief executive officers, regulators and British members of parliament. That same scrutiny should be applied to corrupt rulers wherever they are. First, their assets should be exposed, as happened recently in France. Their access to the international finance system should be blocked. And in the best-case scenario, their money returned to the countries from which it came. Like any idea whose time has arrived, this one has popped up in several places, with different solutions floating around, all worth pursuing. One of them, put forward by Global Witness, an anti-corruption group based in London, calls for better regulation by international banks, which often fail to do due diligence on high-ranking or flush clients. Existing rules designed to block money laundering and terrorist financing may be enough, but bankers must do more to check up on clients with connections to known shady regimes, says Anthea Lawson, a Global Witness campaigner, who testified last month before the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services. Identifying those regimes isn't rocket science. One red flag is lack of transparency, particularly in resource-rich countries like Equatorial Guinea, Russia and many others, where profits are easily hijacked by the ruling elite. A second proposal, now pending in the U.S. Congress, would force oil companies and other commodity producers to report all payments to host governments on a country-by-country basis. The argument has been ignored for too long. Billions of dollars in Western aid to many of the world's poorest countries could be saved if revenue from the export of valuable resources went into the local economy, not the pockets of rulers. A third approach is to apply the Anti-Kleptocracy Initiative, which President George W. Bush in 2006 promised would identify critical tools to detect and prosecute corrupt officials around the world. This initiative, like the 2004 presidential proclamation that allows the United States to block visas for certain foreign officials, needs vigorous resuscitation. There are many reasons why this is a good moment to go after kleptocrats. One is the recent global financial meltdown, which brought home the need for banks to be more open about the risks they take and the customers they accept. Then, there is the pledge taken by the Group of 20 nations to crack down on tax havens, where tax evaders and dictators get to hide behind banking secrecy. In France, Anti-corruption groups are hoping for a breakthrough with a lawsuit, now heading for the Court of Appeals, that charges 3 sitting African leaders with misuse of public funds. The case, brought by Transparency International's French chapter and the association Sherpa, could end in the restitution of the pilfered money to the citizens of Gabon, Congo and Equatorial Guinea. The French lawsuit has already shown an unkind light on the breathtaking wealth, totaling 160 million, held in France by the 3 presidents and their families. Details about the 15 Paris properties, 10 luxury cars and 70 French bank accounts held by the family of President Omar Bongo, Gabon's president since 1967, have already put him on the defensive. He temporarily suspended his duties as head of state on May 7, before going to Spain, not France, for cancer treatment. Naming and shaming will almost certainly not be enough. The next step will require diplomatic backbone both in France, which has a long history of coddling favored African leaders, and in the United States, where geopolitics and oil can forgive a lot of sins. In 2006, when young Mr. Obeng was buying the Malibu mansion, his father, President Teodoro Obeng Mbisoko, in power since 1979 and long shunned internationally for human rights abuses and impropriety, was welcomed in Washington as a good friend by Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. It may be time to put that kind of friendship to the test.